welcome everyone. This is our session called Rotaract and Rotary Club Partnerships. Before we get started, I just wanted to read an acknowledgement statement about the land where we are today. This convention center where our meeting takes place was built on the banks of the Birarong, or the Yarra River, and we would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of Narm, also known as Melbourne, who are the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging, and to elders of all First Nations communities, from where you may be joining us today. We recognize the significance of the Birarong to the traditional owners as a life source and a meeting place, and seek to honor the 40,000-year tradition of building community and exchanging ideas on these lands. So we have a great panel assembled for you today. My name is Mark Riedinger. I'm from the Rotaract Club of Milwaukee, and I'll be moderating today's session. We're going to be talking again about Rotaract and Rotary Club partnerships. So each of the people here on the stage with me today have experience working with both Rotaract and Rotary Club spaces. So starting first on my left, we have Adriana Alemán. She's from the Executive Rotary Club of Aguascalientes in Mexico. She's also the advisor to the Rotaract Executive Club of Aguascalientes. Next, we have Alicia Rodriguez. She's a dual member of the Rotary Club of Atlanta Metro and the Rotaract Club of Atlanta Metro in the United States. And finally, there on the very end, we have Becky Giblin, who is a dual member of the Rotary Club for Global Action, which is an e-club based in San Francisco, United States, as well as she's a Rotaract Club member of the Rotaract Club of Auckland City in New Zealand. So today's session is going to be divided into two parts. The first part is going to be a question and answers, where I'm going to ask the panelists to tell us more about their stories being involved in Rotaract and Rotary Club partnerships, because each of them has a very unique perspective. But their perspectives, though very interesting, are not the only perspectives that are out there. So for the second half of our session, we're actually going to make it a little interactive and ask all of you, or those of you interested, to provide your feedback about how are Rotaract and Rotary Clubs in your regions. Are they in, you have good examples you'd like to share, or some problems you might have run into, or anything you'd like to comment on. So for that second part, we would like you to, in their app, there is a section on there. If you open the event page, that's called Discussions. You can add comments in there, and we'll be monitoring that. And even if you don't want to come up and speak at the microphone, you can make comments in there. So everyone who's involved in this session and anyone who actually is involved in the convention can go and read in there about what we've been talking about today. So. All right. So let's get started with our panel. Starting with the basics, I'm going to ask everyone on the panel this question. What got you involved in supporting Rotaract, and what keeps you engaged? Start with.
Hi everyone, my name is Adriana. I'm from Mexico, District 4110. And my club, my Rotary Club, is 15 years old, and it's a mixed club. It was born from a Rotaract club, so we know all the needs of the Rotaracts, and actually we try to get all the Rotaracts involved with our Rotary Club. How I got involved, I started as a New Generation Director at the first week as I got to be a member of Rotary 8 years ago, and since then I've been working with Rotaract and Interact. We have one Rotaract club and two Interact clubs. So we try always to put them together to work with us. So since then, I've been working with them.
Hello everyone, my name is Alicia Rodriguez from District 6900 in Atlanta, Georgia, the US. I came involved with Rotary and Rotaract when I moved from Florida to Georgia. I had no community, no family in the state of Georgia, and so I was really looking forward to, I went straight to Google to figure out, what community-based organizations I could be a part of where I could be social and also make tons of friends. And I stumbled across the Rotaract Club of Atlanta, attended my first meeting, and absolutely fell in love with the organization. The things that keep me engaged, and afforded me the ability to develop my leadership skills. I'm a former president of the club, as well as a former DRR of District 6900. So that keeps me engaged, and then I also love, meeting new people, coming to conventions, and hearing about all of the wonderful projects that are happening not only within the communities that we live in, but also all around the world.
I started my Rotaract journey in Fiji, and I was actually organizing a fundraiser completely separate to Rotary and Rotaract. We were fundraising to send a little boy who was born with a hole in his heart to India for surgery, because we don't have those type of facilities in Fiji to be able to do this life-saving operation. And it was just a group of my friends coming together to make a difference. And at the same time, our Rotaract club in Nandi was being chartered, and a friend of mine had chartered that club. And so they showed up today. And when they came to that event, he walked up to me and he said, "Becky, you need to come and be a part of this, because you're gonna love it." And I absolutely did. And it was just a few months later, I was invited to be a Rotaract representative at the Rotary Leadership Institute that was being held in Fiji for the first time. And it was at that event that I learned about the Rotary Oceania Medical Aid for Children. And I had the realization that all of that hard work that my friends and I had been putting in to raise awareness, to get funds to send this little boy to India, because that was where our insurance group was suggesting we send him, could have been done by a single application form to the Rotary Oceania Medical Aid for Children, because they have an entire system and process to bring kids out of the Pacific for life-saving surgeries to here in Australia and in New Zealand. And basically, it would have been a lot less strain on his heart. And I realized at that moment that this was an entire untapped opportunity for all of my community that needed work and it needed attention. And I've stayed in it ever since.
Yeah, that's all great stories, amazing. In my own case, I can say it's actually kind of similar to Alicia's. I joined just out of college. I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, USA, and I was just looking to volunteer more in my community because I felt like I had not done enough of that going in previously in my life. And so I was just looking for a place where I could do that. I didn't know anything about Rotary, never really heard of it, but I found this group called Rotaract, which was very active in my local community, and I got involved through that and been involved since then because it's a bunch of cool people working on very important things and having fun along the way. And that's something that I feel is important, and it's something I enjoy about being a part of Rotaract. All right, we'll go to the next question I have for you. Can you think of a time or an example of when Rotaract has given back to Rotary, or the vice versa, when Rotary has given back to Rotaract?
I'm going to jump in here with an example of Rotaract giving back to Rotary. And I can see a few familiar faces around the room, and you may be familiar with this. But my example would be the Rotaract project that I've been championing for the last 3 years, which is called Move for GCAF, which is Rotary Give Every Child a Future, where Rotary is vaccinating 100,000 children in 9 Pacific countries against 3 preventable diseases. In countries where 1 in 45 under 5 are dying, this is life-changing to be able to have access to these vaccines. And as a Pacific Island woman, this project spoke to me. And so of course I took it to my Rotaract Club. And we thought, okay, we can run the 11 kilometers of the Auckland City Marathon, and we can raise $1,000. It seemed achievable, right? Simple. But when I took it to the Rotarians in our region, we got a pretty negative response. And I realized really quickly, it wasn't because they didn't believe in us necessarily. It was because they were already being pushed to donate to this regional program. Fair enough. So I picked up the phone and I made a few calls, and in the space of 6 weeks, we united a Rotaract network in 22 different countries to raise $11,000 for this project. And it came together seamlessly, and we turned that into a 3-year awareness drive to raise money for Rotary Give Every Child a Future. We called it Move for GCAF, and on a single day for 3 years, Rotaractors around the world would get up and move and raise awareness and celebrate what Rotary was doing in the Pacific. Whether that meant it was Rotaractors dancing in the streets of Uganda, doing push-ups in the fields of Jamaica, running in Canada, cycling in the US, running through Denmark, they were a part of this and they moved with us. And this international movement put Rotary on the map. We had Jennifer Jones standing on stage at Global Citizen talking about Rotary Give Every Child a Future. And that was actually part of her Imagine Rotary tour. We put that project on the map and gave back to Rotary by being the voices of this incredible initiative.
Okay, I'm going to take a little bit more local. In Aguascalientes in Mexico, what we do at our club, it's we get fundraisers. Actually, we have a casino night every year. So everything that goes from the casino, it's raised for us, but the meals served in the casino are for Rotaracts. So they prepare the meals, they sell the meals, and everything that's raised from those meals, it's for them. So actually, we just invite them to our fundraiser to be part of it, and they gain also for their clubs. And we also have done some athletic careers with the Interacts and the Rotaracts, where they organize, we help them, we use our contacts in governments and also do sponsorship, and everything raised it's for their programs. So that's a way, like, we both give back. It's a winning-winning process.
All right. Well, those are some really great stories. I did want to add my own perspective on this because I've had a very good experience, I would say, working with the Rotary Club of Milwaukee. They are the partner and sponsor of my Rotaract Club, and we've done things for them, things like doing fundraisers for some of their projects, like they do a lot of projects internationally in Guatemala, or whether it's for bridges or water infrastructure. We've done fundraisers for them in the past. We volunteered with them jointly. So just recently, before the convention, we had a group of people volunteering with them, planting trees, and that's something we occasionally do with them. We'll have our own joint volunteering with them, little projects like that. And they also are very big supporters of our own learning and development and enrichment. So that can be through things just like inviting us to their weekly lunches and getting to hear from the speakers, going to networking events together, or encouraging us to attend very awesome events that Rotary puts on, like Rotary Day at the United Nations. That was a big initiative, as well as participating in service projects with them. So that's kind of the both sides of things. They give us the opportunities, and we try to support them as well where we can. So I would say that's kind of a best practice, actually, just trying to support each other where you can, as a Rotaract Club or as a Rotary Club. Next, we want to get into what are some best practices for Rotaract and Rotary working together. And we can start with Becky again on the end.
Trust us, okay? Put your trust in your Rotaractors. I think that one of the best things that you can do is throw in your support behind our young leaders. And at the end of the day, we have a fantastic example of this right here in this room. He's actually standing down the back corner taking a photo of me right now. So if you could all turn around and have a look out that way. We have Rotary... We have a Rotary Public Image Coordinator who is a Rotaractor standing here in this room with us right now. He has been trusted to hold a role that has traditionally been held by a lot more senior members of our organization. And at the end of the day, when Philip shows up and puts the best of himself and all of his skill set behind the work that he is doing, he's not just representing himself, he is holding open a door for other Rotaractors to follow him into these spaces. I am an assistant Rotary coordinator. We have Ignacio here who sat on the convention committee. We have wonderful examples of putting trust in our young leaders and actively holding the door open for people to follow us. If we don't actively give credit where credit is due to our young leaders, how are they ever going to assume these positions? It doesn't change. Our skill set that we bring to the table will not magically change between the day that I stop being a Rotaractor and the day I become solely a Rotarian. So why can't we give them that trust now?
That was a really great example that Becky was able to provide of Philip being elevated into, Rotary International. And so we're calling on you, Rotarians, to also welcome Rotaractors into your spaces, onto your local boards, to have a voice. Me, myself, I was the first Rotaractor in my club to actually be a part of our sponsor club, the Rotary Club of Dunwoody. I was able to sit on their board and work with them hand in hand on projects and give it a different perspective on how they can grow various programs. Something that they do locally within the state of Georgia is the Georgia Rotary Student Program, which offers scholarships to students internationally to come to the state of Georgia and study within local colleges throughout the state. And Rotary clubs within our state, our district, would take turns hosting these students and doing like a leadership style program for them. And I was able to step in and kind of improve it year after year in order for us to get some really good feedback from the students to now where everybody loves being a part of that weekend with us.
Nice, that sounds great. Actually, we trust a lot our Rotaracts. We do believe they're the future of Rotary. So we invite them to be panelists of our district conferences. So they also talk about Rotary from their perspective. And also we have held training. So they become national trainers in the Rotary Leadership Institute. So they can also train Rotarians. It's not that just Rotarians training Rotarians. So you give them the opportunity to tell people how they look at Rotary and how they understand it. And I think it's another perspective. It's like a fresh new perspective of Rotary. We have also, at our club, designed a program called Rotary for Rookies, which is new members have to take this kind of course. And we also put some Rotaracts there to talk about Rotary. So I believe that helps because that gives all the people a fresh perspective, a new way, a new vision, and they kind of come together to us. It's like coming up together, and they get really involved with Rotary.
I love that, and I know that we talked earlier today about what it's like when you're actually given that platform. And I was actually given it for the first time in 2020 when I was invited to be a facilitator at a multi-district PETS, or President-elect Development, as we call it out here. And Jennifer Jones introduced me in my first session as PETS facilitator. And can I just say, she's a real tough act to follow as a speaker. Like, that pressure was insane. But they gave me that trust, and they gave me that platform to come in. And by doing that, it was an opportunity for all of the presidents in the room to realize what Rotaractors were doing, and that we are actually leaders in our experience, and we're able to talk to these things. I've been a part of planning this facilitation for the last few years, and I actively am training trainers. And that being done by Rotaractors was strange for a lot of people in our space, and it's made some people uncomfortable, and that's okay. Because at the end of the day, if we're doing that and we're providing that recognition for our young leaders, it builds trust, like I said earlier. One of our Rotaractors who have been lucky enough to be recognized with a Service Above Self Award is here in the room today. And having our members be given these types of recognitions It's just building on providing context that we do believe in the work that is happening and that Rotaractors are making a difference around the world. They are putting in time, energy, effort, and money as well, and usually at a time of their lives where they really are quite time poor. Whether we're starting our careers or a family, this is a really hard thing, and taking that time to recognize what they bring to the table is a wonderful start to keeping us there.
Yeah, those are some great examples that all of you had. And I cannot echo enough how it's important to think about the ways that at that club level, at that district level, zone level, beyond, Rotary is stronger when we have more people engaged that are young leaders, because it has multiple benefits. Not only do you get that perspective, that young perspective, who they might, think differently than those of a different generation, but it also helps develop those leaders so that down the road they can take on and continue the great work that Rotary has been doing for over 100 years. All right. I want to talk about overcoming challenges for our next question. How could clubs transform to keep up with the changing times? What are some best practices for integrating young leaders into the Rotary family? Start with you, Adriana.
Sure. Actually, we believe dual membership is one powerful strategy to get Rotaracts into Rotary, because we know like maybe sometimes they don't want to do like the jump to be Rotarian because they feel like it's so expensive and it's going to be a lot of things. So we believe making a plan with a dual membership works. We have actually 2 members of our Rotaract Club becoming with the dual membership Rotarians, and it's been working great. Same thing, we have a Paul Harris program, we call. What we do is from the points we have at our club, we give 500 points to the Rotaracts, and we say, okay, you're going to donate $500. So those dollars, we put them into the foundation, and you get 500 points. So that way, we will give you the other 500, and your Rotaract can get a pin of the Paul Harris. And that motivates them a lot, because they're like expecting, like, oh, we can have a Paul Harris, And that makes them work more and be more involved with the club. What we also do is we always invite them to our meetings. At least 1 or 2 Rotaracts come every week to our meeting. And same way, like we go to their meetings every week. At least one of our members goes there and tries to see what they're doing, how we can help them, and basically that's like what we do at our club. And I believe it's working. It's been 15 years, and the relationship between Rotaract and our club is super tight. It's like we've always worked together, and we help them, they help us, and it's always joyful. And you can see it. It's not like, oh, we need to help Rotarians, They do it like really happy, and I believe it's this kind of interaction we do.
And for the Rotaract Club Atlanta, we noticed that there was a huge drop-off, which I'm sure is an issue with many of Rotaractors transitioning into Rotary. Back when there was an age limitation from the Rotaract Club, we were not funneling any members into the Rotary Club once that age gap was met. So we actually got together, a bunch of former Rotaractors and current Rotaractors got together and we formed our own Rotary Club, because at the time, and still today, our Rotary Club is the only one that meets in the PM time, which is accessible for a lot of still younger professionals within our age range. So we, again, just created our own Rotary Club with the support of our sponsor club, because they knew, a lot of the times if you don't have a Rotary Club that supports your needs, sometimes you just have to create your own.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, not all clubs are, shall we say, or not all cities are necessarily inclusive for the Rotary experience. And so it's important to think about, like, how can you have those opportunities for those young leaders who might have different schedules to move into another space. And in general, that's kind of a theme, I think, within Rotary as a whole, that inclusion, but also diversity and equity, so all of DEI, and making sure you have voices in different demographics. And actually, when you think about it, Rotaract is in some ways leaps ahead of Rotary in terms of Rotary clubs, in terms of certain aspects of diversity and equity. I mean, during the general session the other day, it was mentioned that there's a goal to get to 30% women members in Rotary. Well, if you look at Rotaract clubs and like look at the stage here today, I mean, Rotaract is already an even split. That's something that is already happening, and it just goes to say that there's more that can be done on that. Becky, did you want to add something? I know you.
I always think this is an interesting question when it gets asked to me, because diversity, equity, and inclusion can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And I look at it in a few different ways. But if you have a look at me and you are familiar with what Rotary looks like in Australia or New Zealand, you will know that I neither look nor sound like most of the people in the room with me. And that's okay. And thanks to a number of opportunities lately, I have been able to come into that space and take a lot of Rotaractors with me. And at PEDS this past year, we had a session that was a panel of Rotaractors from around the world who came in and supported me. And after that session, and after a number of other young leaders leading sessions, I went into a breakout room with some of the DG trains and leaders from around our region. And we were challenged by Rotarian media about why we were discriminating against our older members by having so many young people on stage. There were a number of senior people in the room who were ready to answer this for me. But I jumped in and muted my mic and I asked, I clarified, I was like, I would really like to answer this if you don't mind. And I looked at him and I said, welcome. Welcome to what it feels like to be me at every single Rotary meeting I walk into. Every single Rotary space I walk into, I am uncomfortable and I am challenged. Welcome to that space. Thank you for acknowledging that it's uncomfortable, because it is, and that's okay. It's okay to be challenged. I don't think he will ever know what to say to me when he meets me in person. He's still not spoken to me well today. But that's okay. It was one example of a Rotarian getting the experience of what it's like when we actually work on making the space reflect what it looks like for all of us, and make sure that it's comfortable for us to come to the table. Because sometimes it just isn't, and that's okay. I've been really lucky to have incredible support in my Rotary and Rotaract journey. And I was inducted into my club by the DEI chair, Valerie Licker. She was wonderful. She came in and she spoke. One of the things that she said to me in that session, and I will never forget it, was she introduced herself in a way that she would if nobody in the room could see her. And then she introduced the things that made her unique. And so if I were to do that today, I would say that I am a 5'7" Pacific Island Rotaractor. I have dark hair, dark eyes, and tan skin. And the things that make me unique that you may not be able to see is that while I grew up in a small Pacific Island country and a small town, and was raised by two older parents as an only child, I also have a severe heart condition called heart failure, amongst a whole other things that make sitting in this space really, really exhausting for me. And so there are a lot of things that need to be done to make this space accessible for me. And that's a challenge, but it's an invisible challenge, and that is something that marks my uniqueness. And I would go as far to say that every single one of you brings a unique experience to the table. And because of your own lived experiences, that means that every single one of you will have a different meaning to what DEI means to you. And I think if we can celebrate that uniqueness rather than constantly harping on the things that divide us and make us different, it would make it a much more inclusive environment for us to be working in.
Yeah, that's true, Becky. So I would also encourage Rotaract people, if you see like there's a club that, because I've seen it at my country, where there's an all-men club, and there's Rotaract girls wanting to be in that club, and it's not happening. And it continues, you know, it's like years and years, and I talk to them, and it's like, okay, maybe they're not going to change right now, because it's a process, because it's a 90-year club, always being men's club, so it's difficult for them to just bring in women, especially in our country. So what I tell them is, okay, you can tell them to sponsor you, and you bring up a new club, a new mixed club. But that's on you, you know? Don't wait for the Rotarians to tell you to do a club. It's do Rotaracts, do it. And I say it because my club is a Rotaract club. I came in 8 years ago. The club is 15 years old, but it all came from Rotaracts. So it started mixed, it continues mixed, and it's the only mixed club where I live in the state. So it's the only one, and we try to gain all the girls, but some of them didn't want because they like their sponsor club. So I would encourage them, just go ahead and talk to them and build a new one.
Yeah, putting my assistant Rotary coordinator hat on for a second and my membership voice, I cannot stress enough how important that is. And one of the biggest things that I want to celebrate in Rotary and Rotaract is that because of the way we are being set up at the moment, that even if you can't find a space that seems to fit for you right now, it is possible to create one.
For sure. Yeah, and in the context of partnerships, where you have multiple clubs working together, or different types of clubs working together, I think it's important also to point out that we are stronger when we have more people at different perspectives involved. Because there might be something that someone sees that another person does not. I mean, not everyone has that same upbringing or perspective, or is going through the same situation, like Becky was saying. And that, as a result, what one club might think is the best path, the other club might not think is the way to go, or they might think, well, it needs to be tweaked a little bit. So it's really important, I think, to think about that as an aspect. And remember before we test, we say and do. Okay, so that is the prepared questions I have for today. We're going to take a couple minutes, and if you haven't already, you can either write down something or put it in the app in the discussions section, like I said. And I will be walking around. We also have a microphone over there, and we'll start to have a discussion. We don't expect to get through everything here, but we want to have more of a discussion. So I'll set a timer for 2 minutes.
I'd love to hear some perspective, whether from your own experience or anybody else in the room, to the extent that we have legacy clubs, 100+ years we are being asked to step up and to take leadership roles. And then when we encounter those inevitable challenges where legacy members disagree with the direction that the ascendant leaders want to take, it becomes a function of on-ramps and off-ramps, right? I'd love to hear some perspective about how you have facilitated those off-ramps with grace, with dignity, and more importantly, the respect for the legacy member, and at the same time, providing those doors for the ascendant leaders to, again, be trusted to lead in new and different ways.
So I've sat in that space a little bit lately. We had our centenary, our 4 oldest clubs in Australia and New Zealand turn 100 in recent years. And I can definitely say that it brings some challenges. One of the biggest takeaways I took from International Assembly in 2020 was a quote that sort of goes around in my head a lot. And it's that resisting change is much like holding your breath. Even if you succeed, the results aren't great. And I remind people of that quite a bit, because at the end of the day, these challenging conversations are going to have to be had. Because if we don't change and if we don't evolve, and these legacy members, and I appreciate that term, I like legacy members so much more than old, because I hear it a lot, but I'm going to need to use that. But at the end of the day, sitting down and making space to have that facilitated conversation, and your district governor should be receiving some training on how to mediate those conversations. Ask people to come into that space and sit in there and support you. Also, ironically, your membership chairs should also get some training in that space for how to mediate some of those conversations. I know that I've had to sit through some of that training. And it essentially allows you to be able to have those really respectful conversations about, yes, things have always been done in a certain way, but we need to move forward. At the end of the day, we will celebrate everything that you have done, and sometimes that's an ego pat, make sure that they're recognized for everything that they've done, but we do need to keep moving forward, because if we don't, well, change isn't mandatory, but neither is survival. And they can either choose to move with us into the next stage and the future of Rotary, or we will truly lose that beautiful legacy that has been left for us. And at the end of the day, we want to honor what they've done. And the best way we can do that is by moving it forward and keeping it relevant.
Yes, I would say it's complicated, especially about my district. I believe, I don't know, in Mexico is the only district that hasn't had a governor woman, and it's coming. And I believe people know it's coming, but they try just to keep it away a little bit. And what I also tell clubs, it's because they ask me, hey, how do you handle to be a mixed club, And when I started, we were 5 women in the club. So mixed, it was okay, it's 5 only. Right now, up today, we're half and half, which is great. Because we are coming up, and my club is open. So when they tell me there's another club, and I tell them, you should go with the Rotaracts first, the youngest, so that the way you enter more young people, the fastest it's going to change. Because young people have this idea of inclusion, including women there. So if you just don't get young people into your clubs, you would never get into that point. Because it's difficult for me. Our situation in Mexico, I don't know in other places, sometimes it comes to the ladies, the wives. They have their own group. And basically they're the ones that are holding women to get into the dance club. So it's kind of different. What I've done is I've started to go and talk to the ladies and tell them about the new inclusion and getting women into Rotary, not into the ladies club, into them, just the wives, just to become a Rotarian, because it's different. So yeah, it's a process, and I believe it's coming. I have the opportunity next year. I'll be the first chairman of the new generations exchange program, and that's what they tell me. Hey, you came, you're the first woman to be a chairwoman, and that's good. I feel like we're changing and we're gaining more position.